I'm going to show you how to make your own watercolor paints. I'm Jess Rice. I'm an art teacher, and beginners are my specialty. To make your own paints, you want a couple different ingredients. You need a pigment. A pigment can be made of stone, it can be ground plant material, herbs, or you can even use ground bugs to make your own pigment. You also need a binder. You can use gum arabic, you can use honey, you can even use ground acacia tree to create a binder to bind all your pigment together. In my palette, I've got all sorts of bright colors. I thought it'd be nice to add some earthy colors as well to complement all these brighter colors. I've got some red ochre here that came from the Kettle Valley here in British Columbia. It's a nice soft stone. It grinds fairly easy. I've got a file here to grind it off with. All you need to do is take your stone, grind it on your grinder. Makes a wonderful sound. And that just gets a real fine pigment. As you can see, it takes a lot of grinding to get enough pigment to mix up a nice watercolor. I want to try to get about a ratio of 1 part pigment to 3 parts binder. That'll give me enough of each ingredient to make a nice pigment. So you can see I need to grind quite a bit more here. That's going to take me quite a while. To speed things up a little bit, I've also purchased just a ground raw sienna as well. Local paint stores have all sorts of great colors. Blues, reds, oranges, greens, a wide variety of colors. So let's try this pigment out. It's already been ground up for me. It's far less expensive to make your own colors actually than to purchase the tube of colors. There's a couple advantages to making your own paint. One, it puts you right in touch with your materials right off the bat. I'm getting the color that I want, I'm getting the intensity I want in my pigment, in my paint. It's going to be much richer. I can get exact colors. I could mix 2 of these colors together to get an orange I wanted. I could add some blue to it to get a nice brown. So right from the beginning, I can make a nice sweet color that's fit specifically for what I want to paint with. All right, I've got a little bit of pigment poured out here. Again, the ratio is 1 part pigment to 3 parts binder. Today I'm going to use some gum arabic. Pour a little bit out here. That's about double to my pile of pigment there. Let's add just a little bit more. Make sure that's sealed up. I just use a palette knife and start blending those colors together. Start blending your pigment into your resin. Starting to be a beautiful color already. This is a raw sienna. Make sure you work that pigment well into the gum arabic. Just like baking, if it looks too runny, add a little bit more pigment. If I was going to use honey, I'd use a higher quality of honey so it didn't crystallize on me. It would stay nice and smooth. I think my pigment's getting pretty well mixed up. I just want to make it just a hair bit thicker. I'm just going to add just a little bit more pigment. Just like adding a little bit more flour to a cookie recipe. Just want to thicken that up a little bit. There we go. Make sure that's all mixed in nice. And with your own ground pigment, your watercolor is a little bit more organic. It's got a little bit more texture in it. There's some stone that's not ground so fine. So you're going to get a little bit of that texture in your watercolor as well, which is what I like to paint with. I like to paint with lots of texture, especially for my bears and my roosters. There we go. I think that's pretty well mixed up. Let's give it a trial run. See what it looks like out on the paper. Use my great big brush. Loads my brush nice. It's nice and smooth. I'm liking it already. A little bit on dry paper, wet paint onto dry paper. Beautiful color. Let's add a little bit of water into that to see how it floats around. Ooh, yeah, look at that. That's what I'm looking for. Looking for that spidering of color. That's the gum arabic. making that pigment float out into the water, and then the gum arabic dissipates and all your pigment falls into all your little grooves of your paper, into the tooth of your paper. Beautiful color, love it. Can't wait to use that in my palette. All right, I don't think I need to test too much more. I'm liking that color. It's ground up enough. Now I just need to get it into my palette. Carefully. There you go. I have a new color in my palette, a nice earthy color to work with. I think I'll call it Jess's Raw Sienna.